We have just gotten information that LaGuardia Airport, which is one of the three airports that has just opened, is now being evacuated. We have no idea what that means, and as soon as we get more information on that, we'll bring it to you. Of course, you heard Transportation Secretary Mineta talking about the new security guidelines that will be in place in airports across the nation.
Let's take a look at airports around the country. LaGuardia was one of the first ones to open. We've been hearing different reports that it was open, then it wasn't open. So once again, before you head down to LaGuardia or any other airport, you want to go ahead and call ahead.
In 5 minutes, I will tell you, 5 minutes before we were evacuated, I had just reported that LaGuardia International Airport had been evacuated. Now, I don't know what has transpired in the 20 minutes since we left the set, if there was a credible bomb threat there or not.
And we had some tense moment at a New York airport today. Just to bring you up to date, a man made a threatening statement at LaGuardia and they arrested him.
Another one that's attracted a lot of attention is a report of a possible fifth plane. Here's where that report comes from. On Tuesday morning, the morning of the terrorist attacks, at about the same time as the other planes were taking off, there was a complaint at JFK in New York that three Middle Eastern men were in some kind of an argument with a ticket agent. That they got on the plane, the airline called Port Authority police, and by the time the Port Authority police showed up, the men were nowhere to be seen. They'd left the scene. So that aroused a lot of suspicion that perhaps that was a potential fifth plane. However, a senior federal official tells NBC News that there's nothing credible to indicate that that was in fact a fifth plane. There's nothing to connect that to the terrorist attacks. And in fact, this official says there are many well-meaning reports like that out there that officials have to check out, but that are turning out to be a wash.
Clearly what Pete Williams is reporting on at JFK Airport was the incident with Flight 23. But Katie Tour doesn't simply allow that detailed report to wash like Pete Williams does.
About that, so inevitably stories start to surface.
Right.
When something like this happens, yes. Although we're going to look more into that JFK flight a little bit more, Pete, because there are some very peculiar circumstances surrounding that. And I don't believe that flight ever took off. But as I said, we're going to look into that some more.
Now, as the afternoon rolls around after reports about an evacuation and arrest at LaGuardia Airport, if that wasn't enough of a glaring clue that Norman Mineta's flight ban lift was a bit premature and not thought out, then these consecutive reports from NBC's Andrea Mitchell might be.
Katie, I've just gotten off the phone with a senior U.S. official who tells me that we should not assume that the all clear has sounded, that there are more known terrorists to the United States who are both inside and outside the country capable of hijacking an airplane, and that we should be very careful and not assume that this is over. This from a senior official in the U.S. government at a fairly high level. So that, with that warning, we have to be very, very cautious indeed. This official said that we could be sure that we're safe if the FAA could be sure that they can guarantee that a plane won't be hijacked. But despite the new provisions that have been put in and announced by Transportation Secretary Mineta, no one really believes that eliminating curbside baggage check and preventing people from getting on board with knives is really going to be the answer to that. That we do know that there are other people from this ban who are out there. They are very far along in finding out names of people involved in this, as Pete Williams has been reporting throughout.
That is pretty darn unsettling. I mean, what is there some evidence that makes this senior official give that kind of warning? Because
yes, there is.
That's a very serious thing to say and to report.
I can't identify my source on this, but I can tell you that it is at a very high level, and that this is not someone who speaks freely. This is just to say that this is not necessarily all over. This is why these precautions are being taken. This is why the U.S. government is taking this so seriously and is not standing down. We are in a very tentative stage now in the crackdown on terrorism in this country, and it is a new kind of war, as the president himself said in the Oval Office in his briefing to reporters and in his comments to Rudy Giuliani and Governor Pataki. So while they believe that they have protected government facilities and our protected U.S. officials, they do not think that this is over because they have not gotten their hands on all the people they believe are involved in this cell.
Andrea, just stand by for a moment. We have the President and First Lady outside the Washington Hospital Center.
9 minutes later, the FBI and Ashcroft hold their second press conference where they announce an update on the 9/11 investigation, what's now known to be inaccurate assessment of 18 hijackers. Also followed with Robert Mueller answering reporters' questions.
Additionally, today I announced with the Treasury Department a step that has been taken to provide additional security at airports across the country. As airports reopen and as travel is resumed, there will be substantially increased security presence, on the ground at designated security checkpoints throughout the country. Time.
How many people at this point are detained around the country, and why are these potential accomplices, Mr. Director, of such concern to the Bureau?
Well, I can't give you a specific number. What has happened, as I indicated yesterday, that we're, as a result of following up leads, we're interviewing a number of people. And in the course of doing those interviews, we find that a number of the individuals, when asked for identification and the like, are out of status. And when we find somebody out of status, we quite obviously bring in the INS and they are detained. And that is the policy and procedures we're following.
And they're concerned to you regarding the investigation?
Some may be concerned to us and some may not after we interview them.
What sort of indication do you have of other operations being aborted, other plane hijackings, or perhaps other terrorist operations?
I'm not prepared to make comments about any other items at this time.
How many associates are you looking at? How many hijackers and associates you have?
Well, obviously, I've just announced that there are 18 hijackers. The number of associates is significant, but I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to try and attach a specific number. We are continuing to develop an understanding of all the associates that these individuals had.
In the country.
Sir?
Do you believe the associates are in the country, or do you have evidence that they
First of all, if we knew exactly where associates were, it would make our work easier. But we are interested in finding associates and making inquiry of them.
According to this official, this is not over. The all clear has not been sounded. This is not the time to stand down. He said until the FAA can assure us that they can prevent all hijackings, we should not be certain that this is a safe situation for people here and abroad, U.S. targets.
Well, it certainly sounds like Andrea Mitchell's warnings are rightly due, regardless if one compartment of government have the authority to say air travel is safe and okay. Other compartment heads, federal security experts beg to differ, with the details surfacing from the ongoing dragnet.
Ed Bradley, word from LaGuardia Airport where they're trying to get things cranked back up again, but they're having some difficulty.
Well, security is very tight. The American Airlines section of LaGuardia Airport was temporarily evacuated in the last couple of hours. A man came in with what was regarded as a suspicious package, and he made some inappropriate remarks about that package. He was arrested immediately. Bomb-sniffing dogs were brought in, and the terminal, that part of the terminal was evacuated. They are now back up to operation.
Well, it looks like we have some answers as to what happened in LaGuardia Airport. But regardless, the show must go on.